Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another interview in the World Autoinflammatory Awareness Month series presented by FMF and AID Global Association. This is the last day of September, so this is our last interview of the month, but don't worry, we have plans to do interviews all throughout the year as well, so we can share stories of patients and parents of patients from all over the world. So make sure that you do hit that subscribe button and hit that like button so that you know when we post these interviews. Make sure you ring the bell as well so that you get the notification and you don't just have to come to the page. So today I'm joined by Debbie. Debbie has FMF and she has had a pretty long and arduous journey to get the diagnosis. It was from the last time we spoke, I remember all kinds of misdiagnoses and different doctors and medicines. And so, how are you doing at this point right now with all that?
Much better. Uh, the minute I started colchicine was a game changer for me. And I was not only diagnosed with FMF, but I was also diagnosed with NLRP12, which is also an autoinflammatory, same thing, periodic fever type of I guess disease you would call it. But yeah, the colchicine was a game changer. The minute I took it, and about 4 or 5 days later, I went to go get blood work done, and I was amazed to see my markers, my inflammatory markers had dived.
Nice.
And I mean, they weren't normal, but very, very close. So I thought, okay, now we're on to something because I know we spoke about this before, but I was diagnosed by an infectious disease
Mm-hmm.
doctor. And I was going to a rheumatologist for many, many, many years and never even spoke about FMF or any autoinflammatory diseases. So yeah, I am doing much better. They also put me on a Loris,
Oh, good.
but well, they're taking me off of it. They
Oh,
don't think it's really doing much for me.
okay.
And I kind of screwed myself up a little bit. I don't know why I thought I was taking my colchicine. I was taking it originally twice a day, and then for some reason, as the months went by, I ended up just taking it one time a day. And I'm like, I don't understand why I'm flaring. The other day, I take a look at my, like 2 weeks ago, I take a look at my pills, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be taking this twice a day. Why did I stop? So I have been feeling much, much better since then.
Good.
So yeah, they're going to take me off the Alaris to see how we do.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the biologics mess with your immune system so much, so it's definitely good that they're seeing if you're able to get off of it because the mixture of colchicine, which does, as we know, has some crazy side effects, that that you can just be on the one, which is what we all hope
Yes,
for. I mean, I've went from being on two to one to a different one, so yeah, it's a process. And why don't you
it
talk
is.
about a little bit about the beginning of that process for you when you started getting symptoms?
So when I was 16, I had a really bad attack, and it was fevers, a host of stomach issues, um, exhaustion. It didn't last for very long. I mean, it did at the time. It was, I think, about 6 months to a year. I don't remember because I was 16 at the time. But then it disappeared. It went away. I was fine up until I was in my, I would say my late 20s, into my early 30s. I started having these attacks like dizziness and abdominal discomfort and fevers out of nowhere, and it was just weird stuff. I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and because I have other issues, I have what's called arthrogryposis. It's orthopedic issue. They would always kind of like revert back and blame it on maybe it's something from your arthrogryposis, but I would say no. This is something different. This is something's going on, and we need to figure it out. When doctors would tell me that I was depressed, or they thought I was depressed because of my orthopedic issues, and And they would say that as I met my husband, why don't you go with your husband and have a good time? And I would say to the doctor, why are my inflammatory markers high? It's not because I'm lonely or bored or anything like that. Like if you look at my markers, you can tell something's going on, right? I mean, it was really discouraging. And, even up until recently, at this point, until I found out about a year and I think it was a year ago already, until I found out like actually what it was, I was at the point of almost giving up and saying, you know what, whatever's going to happen is going to happen because this is what my rheumatologist had said to me that stuck with me is like, we may never find out. So I thought about that and I'm like, what happens if that really is the case? I'm just going to have to like deal with this and just deal with it. But it actually wasn't the case. And now I got my life back to a degree.
Now, now that you've got these diagnoses, did they suspect that the orthobiposis is a comorbidity from? No, they think that was first, and then the F. And to me, it's interesting what you said. How it lasted about a year, but then it went away. Like you went into remission,
Yeah.
which is possible for FMF patients and autoinflammatory patients, but it's rare. It's very rare,
Mhm.
and as we saw, it came back, unfortunately. So that just shows you the craziness that our bodies endure from all this. I remember when I was younger, my high school years. Sure, I got sick, but it was kind of settled and handled. But then once I got out on my own, stress levels rose. You had to get into the workforce. You started to notice what your triggers are, and that's when it really starts to come out. I mean, because let's face it, adulting is hard, and
Yeah.
life is stressful. Um,
Yeah.
so after like your parents like with all this how did your parents handle it when you were a teenager? Because I mean, sure, when you're in your late 20s you're kind of doing it all on your own, but when you're a teenager you have to rely on your parents, and like you said, it went into remission. So how was that? Like, what was their reaction when it happened, and then in the remission, and then it came back? And
Well, we didn't honestly get a clear answer. I mean, my mom had taken me to so many doctors, gastro doctors, internists, you name it. She tried everything she possibly could at the time. They did crazy things, Barian enemas, and because a lot of it was gastro
Mhm.
and um nothing. They couldn't find anything. And one time she took me to another gastro doctor. This was towards the end of the flare already. And the gastro doctor said, "Oh, you have like it was like these, it looked like almost like scratches on my stomach."
Mhm.
And it was like almost like a pre-ulcerous condition at the
Mhm.
time. And they put me on Zantac and in like a few weeks it kind of dissipated, but that I think it was just at the end of the flare
Mhm.
that it was just coming to an end. And at that point it went away. So all this time my parents were thinking it was, stress related,
Yep.
that I was getting ready to go into college and I was trying to like find my way, and maybe there was a lot of stress involved. I don't know, I don't remember, but I do remember her taking me so many times. Like I remember times getting into the car that I just couldn't even hold anything down. It was
Mm.
it was such a bad time for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And they tried, but again, it's so mysterious. I've heard so many people say that they've gone to so many gastroenterologists and they could not find anything. And that was the case with me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the stress because, oh, they thought it maybe was just stress and you're going to college. Well, a trigger of FMF is stress. And back then
Yes.
there was no genetic testing or any of that. That didn't come in until the late 90s. And so it was, you're right, it was a guessing game. And I remember you telling me they initially, it was Crohn's, right, that they diagnosed you with, correct?
Yes. Yep. And then up until just last year, I was going to a doctor. He even insisted to this day, after I gave him the FMF diagnosis, he's like, "You have Crohn's." And I'm like, you become your own doctor, really. And
Hmm.
you're like, I don't think so. So I actually found a doctor in the city and I went to him, and he is versed in FMF. And he said to me, I don't think you have Crohn's. And they took me off of the Entyvio that I was on, and I'm completely stable. I'm actually even better than I was when I was on the Entyvio. Um, I don't have a gallbladder either, so that can be the
Mm.
cause of a lot of the issues with my stomach.
Hmm.
Um, right now. So, yeah, it's a guessing game. It's
And they took you off the medicine and you became more stable. It just shows you that you put someone on the wrong medicines, it could really screw them up. The misdiagnoses can really get screwed up. We've talked about this statistic all month long. Children, it takes about 3 years to get diagnosed, but adults about 14 years.
yeah,
And only about less than 5% go into remission. And so, um, you know, I'm sure when everything came back when you were an adult, you kind of panicked a little bit, um, and because I mean, it sounds like you had a good decade almost of remission, and so that would freak me out. And but by then, were there support groups by then? Were there places online you could go to? No, and so exactly, and so you were lost, and
I
I
was
mean
on my
you
own,
were on your own,
completely on
as
my
many of us were back then. And so you're just trying to navigate. You have doctors telling you, we can't find anything. It could be a blood disease. So you want to stay in the hospital. And you're like, no, I just want to go home. Or, you have Crohn's, but then why do I have all these other symptoms, that aren't Crohn's related? And it's just a crazy, crazy journey going from doctor to doctor to doctor, like you said. So
So
now
that
that, go ahead.
too. Like I went to a gastro doctor for a very long time, and he kept, I kept telling him that I'm getting these fevers, I'm getting, stomach pain, I have diarrhea. Like, oh, is this part of Crohn's? And he's like, some of it that you're describing is not.
Hmm.
And but then, he would dismiss me and say, well, there's nothing that I can do for you. Like, you need to. He didn't even say I need to see another doctor or point me in the right direction. He just told me there's nothing I can do for you. And doctors like that, when someone is so desperate for answers and you can't get any, and the doctor is not willing to help you, it's like, what do I do now? You feel so lost. I can't even tell you how many tears I have shed, to my husband. Like, where do I go now? What do I do? And I had a great rheumatologist, but again, when a rheumatologist tells you that, we may never get answers, that's so discouraging to have to live that way. Where are these fevers coming from? You don't have a name for it. You don't know what it is. You don't know if it can be, something really like cancer or all these things run through your mind. And then when you finally find the answer that it's FMF and they tell you, thank God it's not that dangerous. I mean, you have amyloidosis, that is dangerous. But once you're on a controlled medication that can prevent that, you're like, you can take a deep breath and
Hmm.
say, okay, I can deal with this. I can move forward and I can deal with this. But even then, I'm not going to lie, when those fevers or the pain, even though you're on colchicine and it comes back, those memories come rushing back into your brain, and you're
Hmm.
like, I can't deal. This is very hard to deal with. So, even though you have that answer and you have that diagnosis, you still, if those symptoms come back, you're still questioning yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've been diagnosed for 40 years and I still have those days.
Hmm.
It's you're right. It's tough. It's all about that support system, and like you have your husband, your kids, and I see on social media how supportive they are of you, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's what folks like us need. And with social, let's kind of talk about that social media, because you've been doing a lot on social media, especially ever since we spoke. And ever since you've been diagnosed the first time, and ever since you've been diagnosed, I've noticed you do a lot on social media. Talk about how important the support groups and your own work on social media are in your staying healthy and keeping a kind of a level head and not flaring.
Well, once I found, the FMF groups, it was life changing because you can ask questions, things that you weren't able to get answers to. So those groups are part of my daily go-to. I think it pops up first on my feed if there's anything that someone posted. And yeah, I mean, and for me to be able to help somebody else that's new to the diagnosis is just, it gives me a something special, that I can contribute. I also started a blog
Yep.
because I never really wrote about my FMF, my journey. I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to start a blog, and I get people reading it, and I hope to get more, but it gives me an outlet. It gives me
Hmm.
something that I can write down, and I can even look back on later on and say, wow, I went through that. I barreled through. And that's been uh one of my outlets that I'm able to like kind of let it out and write down what I've been going through and how my family handles it too.
Mm.
Because we, as a family, we've been through so much. Your kids don't get it when they're young
Hmm.
and they don't understand. And I'm hoping that they, dig in and read mommy's story as they get older, because then they'll understand a lot more. Like when they were little and mommy said she's not feeling well. You know how many times mommy has said she's not feeling well? And, you feel really bad as a parent because you can't do as much as you want to do with them, and they don't understand. So it's very frustrating for somebody that's going through it. It's frustrating for the kids. It's frustrating as, a family dynamic. So yeah, that's definitely, social media has been a great outlet for me.
With FMF and AID Global, what one of the things that we're trying to do is, educate and folks like yourself sharing their story is the first step. But I feel like the next step is definitely getting information to more doctors and using the internet and social media. And I think someone like yourself who uses it regularly and advocates for yourself is very important in this journey, and very important what FMF and AID do to help patients for the future. What are you hoping for in the sense of awareness and research? And because I know that's all stuff that's very important to yourself because you're in New York, the area. It's a very big hub for things like this, and so I know you
And
have your pulse on it.
and even so, right, you would think, even so, I'm in New York. I'm very close to Manhattan. I had to search for a doctor that there's nothing on Long Island.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not going to say nothing, but there is more in Manhattan that you have access to. Yesterday I went to a doctor in Manhattan just for the FMF, and I
Nice.
liked him. And I'm hoping that, we can move forward together, and I need a doctor that is going to be able to listen to me. Listen, I probably could be a doctor at this point. Like I know my body, I know what I'm feeling. I know usually I can tell if it's from my FMF or not. Um, and then I know when something's not. I know when I'm tired from just being tired, and I
Mm.
know when I'm tired from FMF. It's crazy, but you get very in tune with your body when you're the only one that, knows what's going on. I'm really hoping I can spread awareness. Doctors are very difficult. They want to know what they want to know, and they don't. I don't know what it is when you tell them you have an FMF. It's like they have a glazed look over their face, and they have no idea what you're talking about, and they don't really care
Mhm.
to know. And that's the one thing now I'm trying to find I found one, a gastro doctor. He's deep in the city, but I started going to him, and I'm hoping that we can wipe away this Crohn's issue finally once and for all, which we're going to be doing a colonoscopy coming up in the next month. And I'm hoping that once that's done, because he's so far, I'm hoping I can finally find a doctor out here that I can, grow with, that will want to learn about FMF, because I do need a gastro doctor. I still have, some stuff going on with that. I just want to make sure that, we're all on the same page. Research is a huge thing too.
Mhm.
I haven't really delved into that or started researching any of that, but you know, we need more awareness of our disease. It's a very small population of people that have it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have it that don't even know that they have it.
Mhm.
Because how are you going to find out if you have it if you're living in the middle of the country and there's not even a doctor that you can talk to about it? So, there's so much that I talk to my husband about this all the time. I'm like, I feel like we're still in the infancy stage of medicine.
Mhm.
Right. We are learning so much day by day. I know when I put the TV on at night and I'm watching TV, there's so many ads on for all these brand new medications that are coming out, right? So I think, as time goes on, medicine is exploding. But yeah, I truly believe that we are still in this infancy stage, and a lot of doctors are just wanting to blame so many things on depression and mental health, where a lot of times it's not that.
Yeah, it's great that you bring up that because the word we've been using a lot this month is ignorant. And
Yeah,
that's what they kind of are, is because they're
yeah,
focused so much on, oh, this is what I learned in school. So all autoinflammatory, there was a paragraph in a book somewhere that I read about, but that's it. Then like,
yeah,
why are you a rheumatologist if you're not trying to, life should be about bettering yourself, advancing your knowledge, and finding a doctor that's willing to do that. You're right, is so difficult
yeah,
because I mean, there's lots of factors from insurance to just, that tunnel vision to just not wanting to deal with it because they're in the middle of a doctor in the middle of the country and your case is too complicated. I've dealt with that and I'm sure you have and other people have too because like you said, you're on Long Island where there's not really a lot. So you have to go a distance and fight that New York traffic and it's trust me, I get it because as rare patients, as autoinflammatory patients, a lot of times we have to travel very far distances
yes,
to get to our doctors. And the goal, I think, from all of this, by spreading this awareness, is so that we don't have to travel so far. Those medicines that you see on TV, maybe one day we'll see one for FMF or
mm-hmm,
LRP2 or any other autoinflammatory. Obviously, FMF is the most common, so that'd probably be the first one we would see it for. But that is our hope. I mean, whenever I see those commercials on TV, I kind of get sad because it's like, why aren't they working out finding this stuff for me? Like you
yeah.
see, funny Crohn's. How many commercials and different medicines for Crohn's do they advertise?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
crazy, and so you're like, wait a minute, all these Crohn's patients, some of them might have FMF, some of them might have an autoinflammatory disease because of misdiagnosis, because of ignorance by doctors, because of lack of education. All the things that we're trying to change here at
Do you want
FMF
to hear something
AID Global.
crazy? I was going to a gastro doctor for probably about 10 years, and right next to him was another doctor, and he specialized in FMF. And I was so angry because if he just spoke to this doctor and maybe gave him like, some information about me and told him what my symptoms were and this was the doctor that told me he couldn't help me. There was
Mm-hmm.
nothing else that he could do. And when I found that out, when I was researching to find a gastro doctor that had some knowledge in FMF, and I found out that he was at that practice, I was so angry. And then when I finally called to get an appointment with this doctor, he retired.
Oh my gosh.
I was so
Oh my
angry
gosh.
that
I'm
I
sure.
thought I would have had my answer so many years ago when I was seeing this doctor. And then when I called the practice to find out, well, okay, he retired, but is there somebody that took his place? Is there somebody at this, location that knows about FMF? Like, could I have his personal phone
Yeah.
number? Like, what can you do to help me? And they wouldn't do any of it. And I was just
Hmm.
like, you know what, this is so frustrating because you do your search to try and find a doctor that can help you for that, and you can't find one.
Yeah, hearing your story about calling them even and he's retired and them saying, "Oh, there's nothing we can do." It's the same story everywhere.
Hmm.
I've dealt with that where and it gets frustrating. You're right, and occasionally we raise our voices and get angry and then we apologize for it because once you talk to someone who understands and cares and you apologize, they get it. They
Yeah,
usually do. And so that's, you know, it's crazy right next door.
right next door. I mean, they were in the same practice.
Yeah.
And if I would have known, if I had any inkling or I would have said, you know what, get me an appointment with him.
Hmm.
Let me talk to him. But I had no idea. But I kept telling the doctor, I mean, I kept telling him what my symptoms were, the fevers, the joint pain, the stomach pain. I would get dizziness, vertigo, all while my stomach was turning, so whenever my stomach was the issue, I had all these crazy other stuff going on along with it. And nothing, nothing. That really hit me hard when I found out that they had a specialist for FMF in that practice and that I didn't even have the chance to talk to him.
Yeah, and I think it's our job now, unfortunately, to go out and search for those doctors so we can make sure that other people don't
Hmm.
deal with what you dealt with. Get that information of education out there and not just find those doctors, but then educate the other doctors so that they become those doctors as well.
Yeah,
And I think this story, especially the craziness of the doctor was right in the same practice, is going to resonate with a lot of people. And I think it'll help a lot of people, go advocate for themselves and be like, hey, can you talk to the other doctors in your practice and see if they have FMF or a specialist or an autoinflammatory specialist or something? And if not, then FMF and AID comes in with some educational material. It's going to become a process. We're trying to build this network all over the world. Right now, I think the statistic I was told is about 40% of the patients that are helped are U.S. based, and that's a lot. And
hmm,
so many of them are misdiagnosed and have these long, arduous journeys that they never finish. The journey's still going on for a lot of them.
yeah,
And I mean, heck, the journey is still going on for you. They're about to take you off of medicine. Who knows if they'll put you back on a different medicine? All these things that we're dealing with. I mean, I just like as I said, I've been diagnosed for 40 years, and I over the past less than 5 years ago, I was dealing with medicine issues and doctor issues, and it's a never-ending battle. And our goal here is to make sure that it the battle does eventually can end somehow and we can find some sort of peace and get awareness out there to more and more people so that people understand this is not as rare as we think, especially something like FMF.
I
because
think the name itself is very tricky to people
it
because even
is.
my mother, my mom is from Israel.
Oh.
And when I tell her, oh, I tell her about FMF, and then I said, well, maybe I think daddy may have a gene to it too, because now they found two genes.
Hmm.
Originally, it was just one gene. Now they found two plus the NLRP12, right? So I tell her, I'm like, I think you may have one gene and daddy may have one gene. Why would he have one gene? I'm like, Ma, not just it's not just because you have, Mediterranean descent. That's not, a lot of it is, but there are many people that have FMF that are not of Mediterranean
Hmm.
descent. And, I've heard of people in like Japan, and I've heard of people, I said, Ma, there's people um in European Western and Eastern European countries that have it. It's not only of Mediterranean descent. So I
Hmm.
think she thought that she was special because she, was from Israel and she had that, Mediterranean descent. But it's not true. It could be a wide spectrum of people that have it. I think the name is just very deceiving, and people think, oh, well, it's got to be of Mediterranean descent, but
Hmm.
that's just not true.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the doctor ignorance comes in too, because a lot of doctors will judge the book by its cover and say you can't
Right.
have an autoinflammatory familial Mediterranean fever. You look like you, and that's so rude, first of all. But
Yeah.
second of all, that's not you doing your job at all. And that there's so many doctors like that because of the way our system is where you drive 4 hours sometimes to be seen for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why did I drive all this way for this little bit of attention
Mm-hmm.
and then get told, oh no, no, you're wrong,
Yeah.
without doing any kind of work. It happens. It does. I mean, not just the Mediterranean part's deceiving, the fever part's deceiving too for a lot of people because they think, oh, it's just you get a fever, it's just a sickness. I mean, pharmacists will ask me, "Oh, are you over your FMF yet? Are you sure you can take this?" I'm like, "Wait, what? Huh? No, wait, it doesn't work that way.
Wow.
It doesn't work that
Yeah.
way." So, yeah,
That's
I don't
crazy.
know, if it needs a name change. I've heard periodic fever syndrome before, but I know that gets associated with a lot of the autoinflammatories because we have periodic fevers. So that's a great point to bring up is folks, if you feel like you have these symptoms, but you're blonde haired and blue eyed, don't let that like have a doctor tell you you can't have it just because of where you're from and where you descended from. People from all over the world, we're all kind of from that original cradle of mankind, and then the big diaspora of everybody kind of going out to the different parts of the world. Humanity's been around for a long time. FMF has been around for a long time. It's said to have been an evolutionary thing to prevent the bubonic plague. So, uh, all these things that you're saying and telling people are so important and so helpful. So, thank you so much, Debbie, for sharing your story
You're
and
welcome.
giving us your time. I know you're very busy with your family, your kids, your health. So, you enjoy the rest of your week and stay healthy. And let's catch up again and spread some more awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
And folks, make sure that you go to the FMFNAID website below. And it is the last day of September. So we're going to get this interview up today, hopefully for the last couple hours. Go to that GoFundMe and maybe donate a couple of bucks or not if you can. Otherwise, thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the next interview. Take care.
Bye.